Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Yeah, always great to be back.
So today we're going to be looking at something that I think affects a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
And that is entrepreneurship and the relationship it has with going to college and getting access to credit.
Yeah, it's fascinating how these three things are all kind of tied together.
Yeah, and to help us unpack all of this, we've got a research paper from 2018 by Roberto M. Samaniego and Juliana Yusun.
Okay.
And we're also going to be taking a look at some data from the European Commission from their 2005 Factors of Business Success survey.
Sounds good.
So yeah, buckle up. This is going to be a fun one.
I'm ready.
So I think a good place to start is with something that I think a lot of us kind of intuitively think, which is that entrepreneurs tend to be wealthier than the general population.
Absolutely.
But I think the real question is, why is that?
Yeah, that's the deeper question.
And so a 2006 study by Cagetti and Donardi found that less than 8% of the workforce are entrepreneurs, but they make up 54% of the top 1%.
That's a huge gap.
Yeah, it's a huge gap. And so that's really what we're kind of trying to figure out today.
Yeah, like what's going on there?
What is going on there? So one of the factors that people often point to is that entrepreneurs tend to have college degrees.
Right. Makes sense.
And there's actually a lot of research to back that up.
Oh, really?
So like Mondragon-Velez in 2009 and Bates way back in 1990 found that not only are people with college degrees more likely to become entrepreneurs, but their businesses are also more likely to succeed.
Okay, interesting.
So it does seem like there's something there.
So you're saying go to college, be an entrepreneur?
Well, I don't know if it's that simple.
Oh.
You know, I think the real question is it the college itself that's doing this, or is there something else?
Like correlation versus causation.
Exactly. You know, maybe it's not that going to college makes you a better entrepreneur.
Right.
Maybe it's just that people who go to college have other advantages.
Other resources, maybe?
Exactly. And that allow them to be more successful, whether they start a business or not.
So it's more about what comes with a college degree.
Yeah, potentially.
Interesting.
And so there was a 1997 study by Diaz-Jimenez and his team that kind of looked at this.
Okay.
And they found that on average, college-educated people tend to be wealthier even if they never start a business.
Juicy.
By like 2.6 times.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's a significant difference.
It is a significant difference. So it seems like there's something to this idea that maybe it's not the college degree itself, but maybe it's the opportunities or the background or whatever it might be.
Yeah, all those other factors.
Exactly.
That are kind of coming into play here.
Now, I think another piece of this puzzle that we need to talk about is credit.
Right. Credit's huge.
It is huge. And so when we talk about credit, we're really talking about access to credit.
Yeah, being able to get those loans.
And so for a lot of people, you know, they might have an amazing business idea, but they just don't have the money to get it started.
Right. You got to have capital to make capital.
Exactly. And that's where loans and credit come in.
So where does college fit into this then?
Well, a lot of people are taking out loans to pay for college.
Right. Student loans.
Exactly. And so if you're already struggling to pay back your student loans, it can be really difficult to get a loan to start a business later on.
So you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, you're kind of stuck.
Even if you have a great idea.
And there's this concept called the inalienability of human capital.
That sounds intense.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But basically what it means is that you can't repossess someone's education if they default on a loan.
Oh, that makes sense.
So if someone takes out a loan for college and they don't pay it back, you can't go and take their knowledge away from them.
Right. You can't like repo their brain.
Exactly. And so this makes lenders really cautious about student loans.
Okay, so they're less likely to give them out.
Yeah, because the risk is higher.
Makes sense.
And so that can kind of create this cycle where, you know, it's hard to get a student loan in the first place.
Yeah.
And then even if you do get a student loan, it can be hard to pay it back.
Right.
And then that makes it harder to get other loans later on.
So it kind of snowballs.
It does snowball.
Wow.
So to get a better sense of how this all plays out in the real world, I think it's helpful to look at some data.
Okay. Data's good.
And so we're going to turn to the 2005 European Commission survey on entrepreneurs.
Okay. European entrepreneurs.
So what did they have to say?
Well, one interesting thing is that most entrepreneurs didn't actually start out as entrepreneurs. Only 16% had previously managed another business.
So you don't have to be born an entrepreneur.
Doesn't seem like it.
To become one.
Right. You can kind of stumble into it.
Yeah. Or maybe you just recognize an opportunity.
Yeah.
And you have the guts to go for it.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And what's even more encouraging is that 81% of those surveyed said they plan to continue running their business.
Oh, wow. So they're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, they're not just doing this as like a side hustle.
That's great.
It's a real commitment.
It is.
But I think a big question is, how are they financing these businesses?
Right. Everyone's got to get their money from somewhere.
And this is where it gets really interesting because 85% of those entrepreneurs said they were relying on self-financing.
Whoa, wait, so they're using their own money?
Their own savings.
To start their businesses?
Yeah.
That's a lot of people bootstrapping.
It is a lot of people bootstrapping, and it kind of seems to go against what we were just talking about.
Right. How do they even have the money if they're struggling with loans?
Exactly.
In college and all that.
And that's where the college degree might come in, because the survey found that entrepreneurs with a college education were even more likely to self-finance.
Interesting.
So 88% of entrepreneurs with a college degree were self-financing. Yeah. Compared to 85% of those without a degree.
So even though it's not a huge difference, it's still something.
It's still something, and it kind of suggests that maybe...
that college degree does help you get to a point where you have more financial stability to be able to start a business.
More resources in general.
Exactly. But does that mean access to funding isn't an issue for these entrepreneurs?
That's a good question.
Well, not necessarily.
Oh.
Because despite all this self-financing, 41% of those surveyed still said they felt constrained by their access to funds.
Wow. So even with their own money, it's still not enough.
Yeah, it seems like for a lot of entrepreneurs, there's this point where they hit a wall and they need more capital.
To really grow.
To really grow their businesses.
That makes sense.
And that's where those financing constraints that we talked about earlier.
All right, those limitations.
Can really come into play.
Wow. So it's a really complex issue.
It is a complex issue.
Okay.
And it's not as simple as just saying, go to college and you'll be a successful entrepreneur.
Right. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it, and we're going to dig into that a little bit more in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, can't wait.
Okay, so it sounds like there's no easy answer when it comes to addressing these financing constraints.
Yeah, it's a tough nut to crack.
So where do we even begin?
Well, the San Diego and Sun paper actually suggests some policy solutions.
Okay, so they're not just pointing out the problem.
Right. They're trying to find ways to make things better.
That's good.
Yeah, so they ran these simulations.
Okay.
To see how different levels of government support for education could impact economic outcomes.
Interesting. So they're like testing out different scenarios.
Exactly. Like, what if we increase education subsidies by this much? Or what if we offer more grants?
Oh, so they're trying to figure out what actually works.
Exactly. And what they found is that even small increases in education subsidies can have a pretty big positive impact on GDP and overall well-being.
So investing in education could actually benefit everyone.
It seems that way.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
But I'm guessing it's not that simple.
Well, there's always a catch.
Right.
If those subsidies aren't targeted effectively, they could actually end up widening the gap between the rich and the poor.
Oh, I see. So we don't want to just throw money at the problem?
Right. We need to be strategic about it.
And make sure the money is going to the people who need it most.
Exactly. And the research suggests that needs-based grants can be really effective.
Okay, so like grants that are specifically for students who couldn't afford college otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah. Those seem to have the biggest impact on both economic growth and social mobility.
So it's about giving everyone a fair shot.
Right.
Regardless of their background.
And leveling the playing field a bit.
But I remember we were also talking about how financing constraints can affect entrepreneurs even years after they finish school.
Right. It's not just about getting through college.
It's about having that financial stability to actually pursue those entrepreneurial dreams.
Exactly. So what can we do about that?
Yeah. What other policies might be helpful?
Well, there are a few things that governments can do.
Okay.
One is improving access to affordable loans.
Okay.
Specifically for small businesses and startups.
So like loans with lower interest rates.
Yeah, and maybe more flexible repayment terms.
That makes sense.
Another thing is fostering a stronger venture capital ecosystem.
So making it easier for entrepreneurs to attract outside investment.
Exactly, because sometimes those early stage investments can make all the difference.
Right, it's like giving them a boost to get off the ground.
Yeah, and then they can hopefully become self-sustaining.
So it sounds like it's about creating a more supportive environment overall.
Yeah, an environment where entrepreneurs can actually thrive.
And not just struggle to survive.
Exactly. We want them to focus on their businesses.
And not just worry about making ends meet.
Right, because that's when the real innovation happens.
Oh, okay. So we've talked about some policy solutions. But I want to circle back to those European entrepreneurs.
Okay, the ones from the survey.
Yeah, because remember how we were talking about how a lot of them still face financing constraints, even if they can self-fund.
Right. That was surprising.
It was, and the survey actually found that this wasn't just a problem for entrepreneurs without a college degree.
Oh, really?
Even college-educated entrepreneurs who were more likely to self-finance still reported feeling limited by their access to funds.
So even with a college degree and some savings,
it's still not always enough.
There must be something else going on.
Yeah. So what other factors might be at play here?
Well, it could be a few things.
Okay.
Maybe some entrepreneurs need capital for expansion.
Right. They've already gotten their business started.
But now they want to take it to the next level.
And they need more money to do that.
Exactly. Or maybe they're having cash flow problems.
Okay, so like they have customers.
Yeah, but they're not getting paid right away.
So they're kind of in this limbo.
And then there's the whole issue of risk.
Okay.
Lenders are always going to be hesitant to give loans to businesses that they see as risky.
Especially if the economy is uncertain.
Right, so it can be this catch-22.
Where you need funding to grow.
But you need to show growth to get funding.
Yeah, so how do you break out of that cycle?
Well, that's where I think innovation and resourcefulness come in.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs need to find creative ways to bootstrap their businesses.
So like finding ways to get started without a lot of outside funding?
Exactly. Or maybe attracting early-stage investors who are willing to take a chance on them.
And I guess building a track record of success can help too.
Definitely. The more you can show that your business is viable,
the more likely you are to get funding.
It takes a lot of resilience.
And a lot of optimism.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
But I think it's also important to remember that it's not all doom and gloom.
Right.
There are a lot of rewards to being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And I think we sometimes forget about that.
Yeah, we get so caught up in the challenges that we forget about the excitement and the passion.
And the satisfaction of creating something new.
Yeah, exactly. Entrepreneurship is about so much more than just making money.
It's about pursuing your dreams.
And making a difference in the world.
And I think that's what makes it so appealing to so many people.
Yeah, it's the ultimate challenge and the ultimate reward.
It really is such a cool thing.
Yeah, it's inspiring to see people like taking that leap.
It is. And I think, we focused a lot on the challenges, but we have to acknowledge that drive.
Right. That entrepreneurial spirit.
It's amazing.
It really is. And it comes through in all the data we've looked at.
Yeah, whether it's those European entrepreneurs bootstrapping.
Oh, right. Or those researchers.
Trying to figure out how to support entrepreneurs better.
Yeah, it's clear that entrepreneurship can be a real force for positive change.
Absolutely. And, I think one of the big takeaways for me today is that it's not as simple as some people make it out to be.
Right. It's not just about having a great idea.
Right.
And boom, you're a millionaire.
There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, there's a whole ecosystem of factors.
And those financing constraints.
Right. Access to credit.
That's a big one.
It is. And it's something that we need to address if we want to create a more inclusive
and supportive
entrepreneurial environment.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think our deep dive today has hopefully given everyone a better understanding of all this.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in those stories of overnight success.
Right. Those like unicorn startups.
But the reality is a lot more nuanced.
It is. And I think understanding that nuance is key.
If we want to help more people achieve their entrepreneurial dreams.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap things up,
what
are some of the key things you hope our listener walks away with?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say remember that entrepreneurship is a journey.
Okay.
And there's no one right way to do it.
It's going to look different for everyone.
Exactly. And it's about figuring out what works best for you.
And your specific circumstances.
Right. And seeking out support when you need it.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Exactly. No one succeeds alone.
And I think another big takeaway is that financing constraints are a real thing. And they can hold a lot of people back.
Yeah. But there are things we can do about it.
Right. Both as individuals and as a society.
We need to create a system that provides opportunities for everyone.
Yeah, regardless of their background or their financial situation.
Because ultimately, entrepreneurship is about innovation.
And creativity.
And those things can come from anywhere.
Absolutely.
So keep learning, keep asking questions.
Keep that curiosity alive.
Exactly. Because the world of entrepreneurship is constantly changing.
There's always something new to discover.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the next big success story.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into entrepreneurship, education, and credit.
And be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive.
We'll see you then.